Hello, and welcome to the Family Photographer Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm going to be doing a 2024 overview that kind of looks over what my most popular session types were, where my income came from, and just sort of some overall yapping about the issue that many photographers are running into when it comes to reaching income goals. Because it's always at this time of year that a lot of photographers will start to post in Facebook groups and ask people how they did. And there's always this focus on like the photographers reaching the 6-figure mark. That's like the thing. And the thing to know is that the vast majority of photographers do not reach a 6-figure income. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I looked at the stats, and in the whole country, only 12% of female-owned businesses reach 6 figures. And that's like all businesses, including everything you could think of. So family photographers in that mix, I have no idea how we would get the percentage of family photographers making 6 figures. I would guess that it's very low. And 6 figures is an interesting number because I feel like I also live in a high cost of living area, and not everyone does, and everyone's income needs are different, right? So if you look at this, I always think about it. If I had to go back to work, what would I need to make the equivalent of what I make at this job? And it's less because, of course, if I had a job, I wouldn't have to pay all of my expenses and taxes and all of those things. And so I do feel like many family photographers are, when they do their taxes and they finally get that number at the end of the year, it's hardly a living wage, if you know what I mean. And so that is hard because I want everyone to be able to reach their potential in terms of what they can make as an income. And the main thing that's in the way of that, I would say, for the vast majority of the family photographers I talk to, is really just themselves. If you've listened to this podcast, you know how much mindset and comparison and fear and consistency, those are the roadblocks. It's not where you live necessarily. It's not who you are friends with or anything like that. However, this is what I will say about it. I know that there's a lot of quote unquote 6-figure photographers who do studio work, live in big cities, and they're just naturally like super outgoing people and have huge groups of friends. And that's always going to be the easiest path. And so I feel like it's very hard for those people to say, oh yeah, it's so easy. This is what you do. Here's the blueprint. Because you can't create a, sorority sister who is literally a cheerleader in college and has a million friends and goes to a mega church and is super well known in her area, and her husband works at a high paying job, and his friends and coworkers, everyone's kind of in the upper middle class. You cannot compare that photographer to someone who's living like in small town Kansas, right? It's not fair. And I feel like sometimes there's this thing where people try to compare those two, and they're like, anything is possible anywhere. And it's a lot harder. It takes a lot more effort. But I do truly believe that the majority of family photographers could be making a much higher income than they are now. So that's kind of my little rant on income. Also, be very wary of the people who are constantly talking about income, because I feel like I think it's important to know. I like the idea of what's possible, right? Like, so what's possible, what's inspiring, what can a family photographer aspire to? And if you can step in and be someone like that, like I definitely know 6-figure photographers, and my business hits that mark, but that's 15 years of consistent marketing work and putting literally so much energy and effort into process, client experience, all of these things, right? So I want those photographers who are that way to be humble and just an aspiration of someone who's trying to reach that income goal. However, that doesn't need to be everyone's income goal. A person who runs an extremely lean $60,000 a year business may be having more take home than someone who has a studio, ton of expenses, in their $100,000 a year business, right? So it's just always when you're going into this, be very careful about comparison no matter what you're doing. The best thing you can possibly do is just know that it's possible to make more money with family photography. That's the bottom line. And then put your eyes on your own paper and figure out your own expense needs. So like, what income do you need to make, and work backwards from that? That's obviously like such baseline simple advice, but hardly anyone does it. When I mentor photographers about their marketing, that's like one of the things that I encourage them to do. How much money do you need to make this season? How much money do you need to make in the summer season? How much money do you need to make in fall? Because of course, what majority of family photographers are doing is making pennies in winter, making a few bucks in spring, making some more money in summer, and then they're basically like drowning in fall. And so if you need to change that, a lot of the motivation that will come for you to change that is about being transparent with your numbers. And if you're feeling insecure about that, like I totally know how that feels. There's been years where I can feel that I'm not going to hit my goal. And I'll just go dark. Like I'll don't want to open my online banking. I'll be like, oh, I'm not going to look at it because it's a reflection of my failure, right? So setting goals is scary because they can in turn become a reflection of your failure. But that's such a limited way to view it. So if you have a goal, let's just say you want to make $75,000 a year this year, that work starts now. You can't wait. You have to figure out what that looks like each season. And then you need to write out a marketing plan for each season. And then the hardest part of all, which is that you are, unless you hire it out, you're going to be the one who needs to follow that marketing plan. And that's the only way that this is going to get done. That's the only way you're going to hit that 75,000. And if you're on track, if you say, I want to hit 75,000 because I hit 75,000 last year, but 50,000 of it came in fall and I felt like I wanted to move to Mars, like that's also something that you can adjust now. So the way my sessions worked out, just because I'm like a nosy lady sometimes, I like to know. So these are the percentages of how many of these sessions booked. So 4% were studio sessions, which I need to up really a lot because my studio, obviously I teach in my studio, which is separate. My education income is separate from my photography income. So I obviously need to up my studio sessions because that's a goal of mine. 13% came from like my local town. So where I live, 13% of my outdoor sessions were here. 18% were mountain sessions. That's like occurring up in the mountains. 22% were these session types I introduced 2 years ago, which are midway. So not in my town, but not in the mountains, but in the middle. And that obviously was a great addition to my brand because 22% of my income came from those. And then the Seattle area sunset sessions were 43%. So for me, I'm a ferry ride away from Seattle. I love working in Seattle. Majority of my clients are in Seattle. It is a ferry ride away. So a 1 hour session turns into a 3 hour commute sometimes with the ferry. And it's not like I'm sitting in traffic. I'm, park my car, getting some tea, watching the sunset, riding the boat, possibly, hopefully seeing an orca. It's never that romantic, but it's still time away from my family, right? So those are things that this was so helpful for me to write out and figure out because in my heart, I would say that I spent way more time. Like if you didn't ask me to do this work, I'd be like, oh yeah, I had a ton of sessions locally. No, ma'am, 13%. So obviously that shows me where I have movement, right? So the vast majority of my income came from session payments. And then I every year am trying to up my print sales. I am not interested in doing IPS, but I do want my clients to print more of their images and so part of my marketing plan for 2025 is including marketing on how to utilize those prints, beautiful images of prints and products, because that is a really nice thing when I'm just sitting there and a sale comes in and I didn't do anything with it. I mean, I didn't do anything for it, right? I use pick time. So I use their sales. I'll use their like Black Friday sale is the main one that boosts my print income a lot. Like I'll run they have it set up. You just click it on and it emails everyone who had sessions with you that year lets them know about the sale like 4 times or whatever throughout a month. And then they can get the Black Friday discount. So That's really nice, but I want to make it more of a part of my income. Okay, so then I kind of, I always talk about this idea of having major trust issues at this point in my life of any educator who you say, like, what's my first step in marketing? And they say the dreaded find your ideal client, because that is just impossible. So instead, I made this little graph. This whole episode is like a slide through carousel on my Instagram. So if you want to go look through it, you can. So in the center, it's ideal sessions. And then there's 4 things that lead to that. The number 1 is consistent imagery. And the vast majority of photographers have consistent imagery, but for some unknown reason, they're trying to constantly convince themselves that they need to change. So I need better presets, better light, blah, 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 blah. And then they end up becoming inconsistent and lose trust. Second thing is a seasonal marketing plan. When I do marketing reviews, so next week episode is going to be the final 2 marketing reviews that I have to do. I notice that nobody is doing seasonal marketing. From what I can tell, it's like vast majority of photographers are just willy-nilly posting images. Like, so many times I see fall images that are being posted in December. Is that a big deal? It's not going to kill anybody, but it's not helpful really. Like, your fall is over. Just save that. Save those beautiful images. And so many of these galleries are like gorgeous. And so I hope these photographers are going to reuse them like in July when they're then trying to book fall, because when they're coming in right now, unless there's a call to action and someone has their fall calendar open, a lot of those images and those beautiful fall galleries just get underutilized. So a seasonal content plan would be that as you're working through fall, you have a folder on your desktop that says Fall Images 2025, and you're pulling all your best work from 2024 into that folder. And then when it comes July, which is when I start marketing for fall, you already have all your content right there. That's what seasonal marketing looks like. And then the hardest part, actually freaking doing it. Low resentment. If you are sending your invoices by punching your send key and then stomping around your house because you're underpaid, that's not ideal. You have to track that. And I said in last episode, this is a really good time to have an honest reflection of if you felt like poo sending invoices or driving to and from sessions. Those are the 2 times to check your resentment levels. Easy booking process. My goodness. You know what I'm going to say. After doing a lot of these reviews and just also being a nosy bee who likes to look around at everyone's stuff, it is so hard to book so many of you. And I honestly wouldn't even want to try it. And I'm a photographer and I know how these forms work. Some of these forms, some of you have taken this idea of it being hard to book and you've made it even harder by just making your forms more complicated because you were taught or someone told you, I don't know where this information came from, that the more complicated your get in contact with me form is, the better your clients are going to be. That is not true. You're missing out on people. Make your booking process easy. People are paying for the groceries at Whole Foods with their freaking palm, which I would never do because someone would steal my palm and put it at a crime scene. That's just how my brain works. Okay, consistency builds trust. I'll say it till I'm an old gray skeleton and I just arise out of my grave and yell that one more time. Everyone is always tempted to chase trends and switch editing styles or whatever. I have a friend who's a very established photographer and she did a massive editing overhaul this year and I noticed it. And the reason it's working for her now is because she's sticking to it. So she probably, I'd have to ask her about it. I don't want to seem like a creepy weirdo, but I wonder if she lost clients because her editing and her process and everything looks very different. It went from like very polished edges to very posed to very like filmy, grainy, playful, imperfect light type of look. So there's a chance she lost clients. I think that was a gamble she was willing to take because she was really sick of her current path. So now she's setting boundaries and she's creating a way for people to work with her to achieve this new type of art. And I definitely feel like she's lost people, but then if she does a good job consistently marketing this new style, she'll gain more people. The problem is you cannot do that every year. if you've built yourself up on one specific style, you have to give it time. There has to be time for that trust to build. And you can't just think like, okay, the reason I'm not getting bookings is because my images need to look like this person. So you switch, and then next year you're the same, and next year you're the same. And the client doesn't know what to expect from you. And I know that some of you hate that. Like, I hate it. Like, I'm like, I want to do what I want. It's like that. But it's like, okay, but you have to balance. What are you here to do? Like, I'm a creative person and I love creating art, but at this point, I also need this to be consistent income. Okay, so then I did this little try this instead of that seasonal marketing mindset. So instead of doing all your marketing at once, break it down by season. Do it. You could do it this month. You could do it all. You could do the entire thing this month. Instead of freezing because you don't have any info, or you don't have the perfect info or the perfect reel or the perfect process, you just do it. You just try it even if you fail. Try it. In fact, try it expecting to fail. Like, life is a game. You can do that. Waiting for motivation is a killer. If I waited for motivation to market, I would never market. If I waited for motivation to record a podcast episode, I would never record one. If I was waiting for motivation to go to the gym, you'd never see me in there. So stick to a schedule, even if the motivation is missing. Instead of switching up your editing or your style and assuming that that's the reason that you're not getting bookings, focus on visibility for your current work. Focus on getting more visibility for that work before you focus on getting new presets and trying to learn how the hell to apply them. Okay, so low resentment business. These are like the little things that I think lead to that. Because low resentment means more to me than high income. If you can have a high income, low resentment business, that is like the dream. I feel close to that. I feel pretty close to that. So I feel pretty lucky. But there's still always work to do. And I always feel beat up at the end of fall, which is how I know that I'm not quite there, right? So one, clients follow your vision. So I know that there's a lot of photographers who are in the high income range. They're like studio photographers, and basically they are the person achieving their client's vision for their client. That for me causes resentment. I want my clients to follow my vision. 2, you feel good sending invoices, where you talked about that. 3, you feel good going to and leaving sessions, where you talked about that as well. 4, you have the time and space to do the back end work. If you have no boundaries within your family and home life, then you'll feel resentment. You have to have that space, and you are probably going to be the person who has to create it. 5, you're meeting your income goals. It is like so amazing to meet income goals. That is like the best feeling, especially as for majority of my listeners, female small business owners, hitting income goals is like amazing. So such a cool feeling. Definitely worthwhile to chase, as long as you aren't drowning in resentment to do it. 6 or something. Basic info can be found on your site. Like, pretty much everyone needs to just comb through their site and make sure that it's clear and that it is a little salesperson for you that's giving all the information, inspiring, telling people what they need to know, hopefully allowing them to book with you in some capacity, or at least not fill out a SAT level essay. Your clients ask you for advice. This is great. I love when my clients send me pictures of what they want to wear, because I know they're invested in this. Like, I'm invested in it. That's what I want. I want us to hold hands together as partners, skipping towards the sunset. I don't want to be dragging people. Okay, so here's some tips. If you're in this boat and you're like, cool, but I want to increase my income, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to give you some tips. First one, you're probably going to guess it. It's raise your prices. Obviously, that seems obvious, but a lot of people are terrified to do it. When do I do it? How do I do it? Do I let my past clients know? The way I do it, I actually did not raise my prices this year. And that was kind of strategic for me. They are going to go up next year. But the reason I didn't raise them this year is because I felt really good about them. And I felt good about sending invoices, and I'm very happy with my income. So I don't have to raise them if I don't want to. So that's great. But if you do, you can just deal the way I do it, which is just that every November, I do a Black Friday sale with a limited number of sessions at this past year's set, because I always raise my prices by $100 a year. So whatever you raise them by, that would be your discount for your Black Friday sale. And then you have that feeling of past clients. If they get in on the sale, they get a discount, and then you have sessions on the calendar moving forward. Like my July is 65% booked already from my Black Friday sale. Cool. I like that. Obviously this year, because I didn't raise prices, those people really did get a deal. And so I have to be careful about that. I wouldn't want too many people to book with a deal, because then I would feel resentment sending those invoices. Stack sessions. Okay, so one of the things that I've done is like my priority booking is my sunset session. That's because what I'm known for in my area is golden light family sunset sessions, right? So what I started doing on select days where it makes sense is I added half sessions before the golden hour slot. So the golden hour slot is premium, so it makes sense that it's more money. But if I can shoot a half session right before at the same location, I've already gotten myself there. The transportation's already covered. That was the main way I started to really increase my income starting in 2022. Third one is boost print sales. So again, I'm working on this myself. I'm going to be doing some behind the scenes. I'm going to be getting some product and taking beautiful pictures and images of it. And then the fourth is so easy, but the vast majority of photographers do not do it, which is to consistently market, whether you're busy or not. You can't fall off the face of the earth for 5 months and then be shocked when people are like, what? Who are you? You have to stay consistent. Okay, so that was kind of how my year went overall. I didn't have anybody who seemed really shocked by my process. I had obviously still, despite my best efforts, a few grumpy dads, but still way less than before, than when I started talking about it and when they literally have to check on my contract that grumpy adults are not physically allowed at my sessions. Since I added those steps in, that was my number one resentment of arriving at a session and seeing a dad whose literally body language is like, let's get this over with. Like, that is such a creative killer for me. So I have been doing whatever I could to get rid of that. I really liked my sessions. I love my midway sessions where I wasn't driving so far. I've been exploring new locations. It's just been really good. I felt pretty good this year. So I know now to increase my overall feelings of joy for 2025, I want to move my local sessions and my studio session percentage numbers up. So I really encourage you to go through and see how many of each type of session you book and see if in 2024, if that is something that is movable in 2025. Like if you wanted more newborn, if in your head, because you're focused on the newborn sessions, for example, because you love them, so you feel like you probably did 30% newborn sessions, but when you actually added up, you only did 10, that would be a really, really good data for you to know. Because if you're feeling like you did more of something and you felt happy about it, that's a really good indicator that you can pour more into that session type. Okay, so quick update on working with me. So the one-on-one marketing mentoring for 8 weeks, the one that's starting on January 13th is sold out. There's one starting on January 20th, which has one spot left. And then the February, March, and April ones are also open. So how that works, 8 weeks working together, 4 Zoom calls, unlimited access to me for like questions or anything you're struggling with. And the goal is to just get your marketing all lined out so that you can follow it and reach these goals that you have. Because I've done every type of education in the past, like courses and all of that, but the hand holding and having someone there who learns the ins and outs of your business, like one of the things I'm most excited about with this mentoring is like going through and looking at your specific area and finding out how you could market in person and what opportunities and holes are missing, and even what your town looks like in terms of where you could fit in as a service provider / creative. So I'm really excited about it. If you want one of those spots, I will link them in the bio. And the next episode will be 2 more marketing reviews. All right, have a good day.